large numbers, because to have a Bible before us to impart knowledge is extremely important. Because for me, when I first came into the studies, I was big into Dr. Ben, Dr. John Henry Clark, Asa Hilliard, and some of these great scholars that I found out had made, not all of them, but some of them made their transition. And that was heartbreaking to know that the only relationship that I would have with them would be either through YouTube or a book. But when you can have somebody at your feet, right before you, it's a different connection that happens with that. And as I said when Renoko Rashidi was here, they were the students of these great elders, and now they are the elders. It's our duty to be their students next.
I want to start by telling you that there is no such thing as an African-centered curriculum. Because when Africans first began the educational process, the only people they were teaching were Africans. So they didn't have to say this is for African people because it was the only people that were there. The reason why we have to call it African-centered is because someone stole our legacy and put their name on it. And so now to recollect or to recollect our thoughts, we now call it African-centered because we have to be able to connect with what was ours that we are now figuring out that we didn't realize before. Because if you read their history books, everything that has ever happened, they did. And one of my jobs in the Board of Education as I moved from being a classroom teacher to an administrator was to study the curricula and to be an advisor on the New York City Board of Education curricula team. And so I'm very familiar with the curriculums of science and math and language arts and all the other areas that we teach, and everything has been blackwashed. Because there ain't nothing but white folk in it. It's been washed of its blackness. Ain't been whitewashed. It's been blackwashed. So science has everybody that has ever been of European descent, but nobody ever tells you it was the Moors that taught them. Everything that deals with language arts comes from English, which they say is a language. English is not a language. Because to have a language, as Dr. Ivan van Sertima taught us, in order to have a language, you must have a script. English has no script. Spanish has no script. German has no script. Italian has no script. Their script is the Latin script, and the Latin script is the Greek script, and there is no Greek script because on a Rosetta Stone, that bottom part of that writing that they tell you is classical Greek is another African script that the Greeks adapted. So when we're writing our ABCs, we are writing an African script, but we don't know it. And so Howard Gardner said, well, instead of putting them away, let's look at their strengths. Long story short, this is an African tradition. It's called apprenticeship. Black folk have been doing this for thousands of years. I respect Howard Gardner. Don't want to take no credit from him. But Dr. Gardner, you did not invent anything new. African folk and the ancient world have been doing this for a very long time. It's called apprenticeship. He identified 7 areas where a person could have an intelligence. Music, and the characteristic of music is rhythm. For those of us who are teachers, or for those of us who've been in a classroom, you know you got that student. Shut up! To do it louder. Well, as someone aware of this genius, I find this to be his or her genius. They're rhythmically involved. In other words, they're listening to me. But as they're doing this, this is what's allowing them to assimilate information. They are a musical genius. They learn by rhythm. Those of you in here who are nodding your head like this, that's a rhythmic learner. Because, you know, like I was with students that would be learning. I'd be teaching them and they'd be going like this, and then all of a sudden I'd see them stop. And I say, where did I lose you? How'd you know that? Because once you stop this, you knit your brow, body language tells me you stopped learning. Something happened that interrupted your flow. You see students go like this? All the time, they go like this. And then when you're really getting good with them and they're really enjoying it, they go fast. Okay, they're going, right? And I'm watching them, I'm saying, wow, okay, I got it now. I got it. I got them going, and pretty soon they start knocking their knees and get so good. And then pretty soon they go like this. And now I know I'm losing them. Something is happening that's interrupting the flow. As an educator, I had a student, middle school student. He was just like this all the time. I mean, now, as a teacher, I could have said, come on, man, sit, right? But the brother had his notebook down. He was taking notes, but he couldn't sit, right? And so I made a deal with him. I said, brother, I don't have no problem with you standing. But when you see that principal, because when she come in or he come in, they're going to want to know why I'm letting you stand up. Can we make that deal? He said, yeah. Now, he was really helpful to me because when he was like this, and then all of a sudden I saw him go like this, I didn't even have to wonder if the principal was at the door. He was like yo, she's here. And then now that you've got a sense about yourself, about your family, and about your community, now you go outside of the world in the 3rd grade and you study communities around the world. 4th grade is U.S. history through local history from an African perspective. Here in Baltimore, you'd study U.S. history, but what was going on in Baltimore. Okay? 5th grade is the American hemisphere. Alaska to Tierra del Fuego in South America. 6th grade, world geography and world geology. Geography exists because of geology. Geography is a picture of the earth. Geo is earth. Graphy is a graphic or a picture of the earth. Geology is the study of the earth. 7th grade is world history from an African perspective, from the origin of humanity until 525 BCE, the end of the African rule of Kamene. 8th grade is world history from an African perspective, from 525 to 1492. Grade 9, hemispheric history from an African perspective, pre-1492 to October 1942. Grade 10, hemispheric from an African perspective, 1492 to 1870, which is the beginning, quite frankly, of the immigration of America. Don't let them take you into the 20th century with immigration. Immigration started when they didn't want to give black folk the jobs, so they imported the poor, sick people from Europe. 1870 is when immigration started. See, they try to get you to believe that other stuff, but really, see, they didn't want to give black folk the jobs after the Emancipation Proclamation. And another thing, I think that Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois did a wonderful job on his PhD dissertation. It was called the Reconstruction Period. It tells you what black folk did post-1865. By 1870, 14% of Africans were literate. From a zero mark of being illiterate, in 5 years, 14% became literate. By 1900, 41% of Africans in America were literate. They could read magazines and newspapers. You know what's wrong with that? That number is higher then than it is now. You telling me there's not a plan? See, the Board of Education is not failing. They're doing a good job. Because their purpose is to miseducate our children.
BLM, we cease the mediocrity, got our own economy, in control of our children and our commerce. Now which one you want to check first? African Communal Empowerment Fund, Urban Youth Initiative with the daughters and sons, African Marketplace with a collective as one. From Ma'at to Yehudi, it's all redemption. No dissent shine in the ranks of our movement. Keep each other in check and strive for improvement. Culturally careless, minds are shrinking. African awareness, critical thinking provides a chance. Whether novice or advanced, to relive what was lost and start to strengthen our stance in this situation. Stressful participation is needed, so we'll never be defeated. PLM, strengthen our stance so the village will advance and strive to our oppressor is deleted. PLM, mold the minds that's soon to be enshrined with ancestral divine that is needed. PLM.
We be the epitome of where study meets practice. As a wannabe revolutionary, I lack this.